Yo, what's up? It's the Iron Son. So I'm just gonna chop it up with the guests. We're just gonna talk about just whatever comes up. I'm actually getting my equipment out now. Super impromptu. And we're waiting for a guest. He'll be here shortly. Just gave him the link.
Yo,
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
can hear you, bro.
You can?
I can. Can you hear me?
Test, test. Yeah, I can hear you. Good. I got my cat here ready, man. See?
What's that?
I got my cat here.
Amazing, amazing.
That's Tuna.
Nice. Hey, Tuna.
He's busy right now. Your audio's a little low. Can you speak again?
Yep. Hello, hello. Let's see. Might have
Oh,
to.
it's okay. My volume was low.
Is that better?
Yeah. How's it been, man?
Good, bro. Just out here hustling, making shit happen.
Good, yeah. So, I did have stuff I wanted to talk about, but um, I didn't put out a particular title um, so just off the cuff, do you have me up on? Try muting. I'm gonna mute your mic or mute your mic. See what happens. I'm getting some feedback.
How's that?
Test, test, test. Blah blah blah. A B C D E F G. That sounds perfect.
Cool.
Wherever you did, I think it worked. So you actually did something kind of cool that I recognized. So 30 minutes before we started, you said, "Hey, we're good for four, right? Oh, we're on for four." So I thought about that in the early years when I was, going straight into the women topic. Like in the early years when I would be dating a woman, and with me in particular, like I would get flaked on with some women, and I'd be thinking the whole day, okay, I have to get ready for this event that's going on that we're about to
Mhm.
go to or something like that. And then I show up to the event, and then no one else shows up, and I'm texting a girl, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like this is awful, like. um, so like, I think you kind of showed like in particular that that's one of the ways you can deal with that. For any guys listening, like if you want to deal with a flaky person, like a day before it's gonna happen, or even like a couple of hours, you can be like, "Hey, I need to know like if you're available, or just send out some message, like you're sending out a ping to see if it's gonna be a waste of time or not." I know a lot of people in our community are like, "Well, techniques are kind of bad" or something like this. Like, um, it's good to not waste time, and then a lot of people nowadays they'll actually like I did initially with like you thinking that I was going to show up, and I even though I did like want to get to it, I just couldn't get to it. It's still some people they will waste your time, and they won't even apologize, and they won't even show up again, and I'll just be like, oh, okay, and you end up feeling like shit, and your self-esteem just kind of goes down the drain, for this for them not even acknowledging you as a human being.
Hmm.
So again, just to reiterate, the idea is that maybe a day before or a couple of hours before you end up doing something with the person, just check in on them and be like, "Hey man, we're on for four, right?" Something like that. If you don't get anything back, you could do two things. You could either show up or not show up and just say, "Hey man, let me know when you're there, Uh, that's another thing. You can be like, let me know when you're on your way or something like that. You can do that hours in advance and even a day in advance.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah, man. I think the time is a precious resource. We only have so much of it. You can't make more of it. You can't buy more of it. All you can do is save what you've got.
And that's not
So,
just for dating, for anyone who's listening. That's for
oh
anything.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you're the person who did flake, even if, like, let's say you did it and you actually fucked up and you were actually intending on talking to the person, you need to schedule something with that person as quickly as you can. And it's good to apologize. Apologies really don't mean much nowadays because we kind of hand it out like candy. Um, I think generally you just need to reschedule something with the person as soon as possible because if a day or two goes by, you're probably gonna be in a can.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to protecting my time and energy, I'm pretty careful. In fact, if you and I hadn't have already worked together before, uh, if someone misses one meeting, I'll usually give them a second chance. But if they miss the second one, I'll just not try again. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't care. I'm just like, I'll just do my own thing. I have plenty to do myself. I already knew you, so it was a little bit different, and you had some, extenuating circumstances. But yeah, I'm very protective about that kind of thing, and I won't even mind. Like if someone is late, if someone's not showing up, if I'm not even getting a text or whatever, someone else forgot or something. I value my time at $2,000 an hour right now, and that number just keeps going up. And you can't, like you said, like I said, you can't buy it. You can't make more of it. So it's way more important than money. People say time is money. I disagree. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. You can always make more money if you make different decisions. You'll
Mm-hmm.
make more. Like you could be homeless today, and if you do a certain combination of actions every day this year, you could be a millionaire by the end of the year. That's possible. That's happened many times, and people do that. Just a different combination of behavior. But it doesn't matter what you do, even if you have $1 billion, you can't make more time. At the best,
Yep.
you go find like, I don't know, futuristic doctors and shit like that, and you make sure you have the perfect food, and you can extend what you have a little bit with money, but you can't buy more, you can't make more, and
Right.
so actually, we talk about this a lot inside the Benjamin Franklin method. You can see we have Benjamin Franklin up here behind me. Uh,
Is that a skull? A skull, Benjamin Franklin?
no,
Oh
he's
no, I see.
he's a
That,
G. He's a gangster. He's
he's
got a
got a
fucking
dollar
face
sign.
tattoo and a crown and some fucking shades on. Actually, he's got these shades on right here. The fucking gold
That's
Ray Ban.
probably the motherfucker. This is actually probably one of the motherfuckers I'd actually be cool with, like just off of some of his quotes.
Mm,
He has some really cool philosophies, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
So the other day you were talking about, or we were talking about women in particular, and you said something that I typically hear in a small community, and I don't hear a lot around in the um, larger sphere of things in the mainstream. You said uh, if a guy wants to get girls, like being having the attraction of one woman around those other women makes it easier to attract women.
Hmm.
Why do you think that information hasn't reached a lot of men?
Mm.
And also, on top of that question, what else do you have to provide to guys in terms of info as to how they can go about doing things a lot better and smarter in terms of like interactions with females that they're attracted to in particular?
Mm. We'll start with the first question. I think the reason why that information hasn't really reached that many men is it's it's definitively reserved information for a certain stratosphere of man. So not every man gets the privilege, let's say, to deserve that setup in the first place. And so there's that, which is sort of like, in other words, the information doesn't really leave its small circle where it is, and very few men know about it, and they don't maybe necessarily share it that often, and that it's such a small group of men compared to the rest of men that the information just sort of stays up here on the hierarchy. As far as hierarchical information is, it's reserved for these people, and it doesn't really trickle down. That's one reason. The other reason is the societal standards now don't support that belief or reality. So I think if it were to leak out of this upper stratosphere down and trickle down for the rest of men, it would quickly be refuted by other men, cucked men, white knights,
Absolutely.
bullshitters, and
Yeah.
also a lot of feminist type women, like radical feminist type women, are not
Yeah.
going to help you with that idea. They're going to shut it down, and they're going to call you something derogatory and shame your masculine desires and intent. Uh,
Yeah.
and you won't be that stratosphere of man necessarily to know how to defend against that, especially against strong societal
It's incredibly
norms.
hard to defend against that, in my opinion, because a lot of guys don't realize that really feminine men and women are very Machiavellian. So I call women sometimes, I say they're sorcerers. But then also the really powerful men who are in high positions who are more psychopathic. Uh, they're more Machiavellian with how they use words, and I think a lot of men kind of fall on that sword quite often because they tend to try to use words at face value, and they don't look at the deeper meanings of words. They see that as a waste of time. And like you're saying, that masculinity kind of diminishes once they're shamed, um, because it's kind of like a lot of people, including you said cucked men, uh, feminine men, like hyper feminine. Not that being feminine is bad, but men who are disconnected from their masculine, and women, especially feminist women, um, very good at putting a man on a defensive and very good at shaming people into submission in terms of how they think and process information. I don't remember if I was asking a question. I'm just going on a little bit with that. I definitely agree with what you're saying. Um, that I think it's jacked up that kind of information would just be for a particular tier of men, and I think that kind of proves that men don't have a natural instinct to look out for the interests of other men, and that bothers me. Um, but then the fact that I can get this information from you and share it to my audience is something that I think is at least, and the fact that you're doing your boss game stuff, like your boss life stuff, it's pretty cool. Like I really like seeing what you're doing because not a lot of people are helping out the little guy. They seem to only want to help you when you get to a certain status. Even some content creators I would want to do videos with. It's like I wouldn't get anything back, but it's like, I'm the little guy now, but like, what happens when I do get the status? I'm gonna remember when you're like not wanting to help me because I couldn't help with your clout, right?
Yeah, I don't know
I
if that's
said a
helpful.
lot.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure if that's helpful to hold on to that or not, but it can be helpful in the beginning to make you want to prove yourself, and then later, when you get to that level of status, you'll realize that it's more beneficial to you to let it go, and you can still remember, but you don't have to, I don't know, shun them or take it out on them or anything.
Yeah,
It's more something that hurts
absolutely.
you, I think. Yeah, I don't know though. Also, I don't know if I agree that it's a shame that it's like reserved information, because it's not like me sharing it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change who your
No.
audience is either. Just knowing that just what we originally talked about, not on this call, was how women are more attracted to you when you have other options, basically.
Uh-huh.
Uh, just knowing that isn't enough to be that guy. So it's not like it's sharing, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like secret guarded golden info that once you know it and have it in your brain, all of a sudden you can be that person. It's like
Right.
biology. It's not like anyone's fault. I don't think it's biology that the women, you know, they test men for his strength because men are likely to try to like put on a certain act to get inside a woman, let's say, or inside her life. And men are willing to do that. And so women have to be very discerning about who's the real deal versus who is putting on an act. And so women are very good at testing us. It's not a bad thing. It's actually good because that's how she finds out if we're the real deal or some faker. And
Yeah.
if we're some faker and we get inside of her body and now she gets pregnant, let's say, now she's like has to deal with some loser who pretended to be a cool alpha male
Yeah.
and take care of his kid and maybe deal with him for the rest of her life, which could be a nightmare depending on the person. So she has to
Hmm.
be very good at distinguishing that. And the way testing us is the way she does that. So this concept of like, you know, dating multiple women or having multiple women as options, at least, even if you are monogamous, um, or being the type of man who is not hurting for those options, even if you're not pursuing other women. Can all work. It could be different depending on the relationship structure, but that is not. Most men need to build themselves into the type of man who deserves that. Knowing it isn't enough. So
Hmm.
maybe that's another reason why the information doesn't really take hold because you can't just know it. You actually have to become the man.
What do you think is the greatest, other than other than just society as a vague like answer, which it's true. What do you think is the greatest, or what do you think are some of the greatest in um, what are ways that guys can get out of their way in terms of developing their masculinity, like getting out of their own way? Like if you were in front of a guy and you had 30 seconds to give him advice before you never saw him again on something he could actively do to 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 grow in his masculinity, what would you tell him?
I mean, basically, you just have to figure out where are you weak, where are you hiding, where are you not showing up fully, and what ways are you bitching out? What are the excuses that you're telling yourself? It's really there. If you just start there, if you really figure out and dial in on the excuses that you're making about why you don't have what you want, that and you attack those excuses and prove them incorrect. So like counteract them through action and then gathering evidence to
Hmm.
disprove those old insecurities that lead to those excuses, then that's what it is. It's like you have to go to battle with yourself and win.
So it seems like masculinity in that sense is a it's like a constant self reflection of self.
Self, it is.
Or like an active self reflection.
Yeah, and it's about self conquership. We all have two people within us. We all have a legend within us and a loser within us. And at the end of the day, you know, each day one person of those two has won. So at the end of each day, you either the loser won or the legend won. We all have both inside us. Some of them are different ratios, you know, and like the people who we regard as legends, whoever that is for you watching or you, Xavier, those guys, maybe like The Rock might be like an easy example that everyone would know. You know, he's like jacked, he's famous, he's rich, he's cool.
Too much for
He,
me. But
yeah, like
yeah,
whatever.
he's
He works
definitely
hard.
yeah, he's pretty fit. He works pretty hard and he's
He
super
works hard.
successful.
He could easily be regarded as a legend. And
Absolutely.
in his own mind, he still has an inner loser and inner legend, and he has to defeat that inner loser every day, every time he goes to the gym. And the legend is winning. So we see that from where we are on the mountain, and we go, "That's a fucking legend," because he's defeating himself over and over again. But at his level, there's still more to go. There's still always that choice every day to
Hmm.
push a little bit harder or to go a little bit easier. And that's like they say that old phrase, success is never owned, it's rented, and rent is due every day.
So I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate just to see where this goes. The thought popped into the head. So females typically use makeup. So you were talking about how women judge men's actions, um, which is fine and good, and I agree with it. And it makes sense on a biological level that, uh, especially because their body would be, they would physically be impaired for 9 months. So having a man who could physically protect them would be essential. Um, so women use makeup um, to increase their perceived physical value to the people around them. And this is something that's actively seen in society as perfectly acceptable. Now, compared to a man who would use like some player thing, like he would use player tactics and stuff like that. Um, what would you say about women who use makeup in any capacity, wigs, anything that they can use to give a greater appearance to themselves? Having said the thing you said about men and our what is our biological imperative to become strong in order for to be selected um, as a man.
I think I
I
understand your
think answered that. I think I asked that a little weird.
I think I understand your question. I don't have a problem with makeup. Some of it is ridiculous what they can do. I don't know if you've ever seen some of those videos where like they can take a woman who's not very attractive,
Mm-hmm.
and you can apply makeup and she looks hot. Like
Yep.
you would think, if you saw, especially if you saw her in the club, late at night, drinks are flowing, that would be a real problem waking up. I mean, I'm not talking about some of the light makeup. I'm talking a whole job. Like,
Yep. I've seen it.
so that's a little different. But I mean, a little bit of makeup, even like a full makeup job, but not to that degree, not to like hide your homeliness, but to accent your beauty. Um, Accentuate your beauty rather, that I don't have a problem with it, and I think it's a little bit of a difference because I know what you're saying, and I can see how they are similar in a sense, but I also think it's different because as a man, for women, we're judging them based on different qualities. We're analyzing them for suitable uh, compatibility using different metrics. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at us. Yeah, sure, they might like how we look, and that's part of it, of course, of a woman's attraction. But it's a lot more about character than who you actually are. And by nature, putting on makeup is superficial, but we are also, as men, superficial. We're looking at that superficial layer, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit of like shine to make them feel better about themselves, and like brings us a little bit more closer to them. It's like a slight increase in magnifying that attraction. For a man, I'm not sure what the equivalent would be exactly, but I don't think it's player tactics because
Viagra.
nah, no, it's not.
I,
I mean,
I said that kind of as a joke, but anyway, I mean that's a chemical equivalent. I think our equivalent would be. Well, I don't think dudes actually do this, but like if we wore like suits or
yeah,
using like steroids, because if the guy can appear more physically strong than he is, also game, I think would also be the equivalent. So
yeah.
pretending that you're strong, pretending that you're masculine, or just gaming the woman and like getting her to like you with using psychological tactics. I think that would be the closest equivalent to that.
Yeah, I don't know because I think for a man, like you can't fake it. It's the truth is always right there for anyone who has open eyes enough to see it.
Absolutely, yeah. So are you saying men are forced to be more? So so it sounds like you're saying men almost have the burden of having more character than women. Is that what you're saying?
Uh, I'm not saying have more character, but I am saying there's there is definitely more of a burden on men, more of an onus on men, because I've heard this phrase before. It's not from me, but it rings true, which is men have to build their value and women have to preserve their value.
Yeah,
So I
it
think that
makes sense.
men, it makes sense to me too. I think that men have the burden, you could call it, or opportunity as a reframe, to actually change your value. You know, as a woman, you can't do that much. You can, like, you can go to the gym as a woman. You can go to the gym. You can take care. You can eat the right foods. You can,
Hmm.
meditate, do yoga, make sure that your mind is right. Do the cool things, or be a cool person. Um, be feminine, be sweet, be calm. Um, those are things that you can do, which would make you more attractive to men. But you can't take an ugly woman and turn her into a 9 or 10. You can't do that. Even an ugly woman, like a woman who was unfortunate enough to like be born with an unattractive face, can still go to the gym and get like a nice plump booty and like toned body and like nice legs. And if she's still cool and fun and funny, she could add multiple points of
Yep,
attractiveness,
especially
which,
if she's feminine. Yeah,
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
which
yeah,
that can add at least two. I believe that at the highest level of femininity, you can get like 3 points added on to you. And so
sure,
if
sure,
you're a five, you can go to a seven. If you're a seven, you can go to a nine,
sure. I think that
or a five to a six, four to six.
yeah, I tend to agree with that. If you just get in the right shape and you have a good attitude and you're cool and feminine, then I think that you can definitely add points. But you can add more points as a man. You can do more because women aren't as shallow as we are. They care about our character, not just our appearance. So there's more. We don't, as men, care that much about her, like, motivation to change the world or dominate in business or anything like that. There's like a few things that we care about, but she
We don't
has
care about
more.
how much money and status they have.
No,
Hello,
give me a sec to check that.
got you. So for anyone listening, this is just we're just kind of chopping it up. We're talking about anything and everything. But generally speaking, the conversation is centered around relationships.
All right, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Uh, I was just giving a precursor, just letting people know that we were just chopping it up. So you said what you were saying. I completely agree with. Women have to preserve their value. Have to um, Women have to preserve their value, and men have to build it. That's I think that's one of the things, the greatest axioms that could branch off into a better life for both men and women, just for understanding that idea. Um, uh, I mean, I've had a thought that I've been dwelling over this particular idea. Let me know what you think about this. I think men men want to be controlled by women, but we don't want to be led. Or let me put that in a different way. Men want to be influenced by women, but we don't want to be led. Women want to be led, but they don't want to be influenced. Or so let me put in a, and I'll tell you what I mean by that, because I this is what I mean by it, and I have to say it differently. Um, Men want to be controlled by women, but we don't want to be led. Women want to be led by men, but they don't want to be controlled. This is what I mean by that. Um, when I say control, I mean influence. Femininity, I've noticed, has a very strong influence on the actions of men. Talking about true femininity, I'm not talking about just having on like a bikini or something like that, but the actual energy. it influences a man to want to protect a woman and to want to guide a woman and just be there for her. Now, that influence, I think, is something that men are drawn to that particular energy. Um,
Yeah.
Now, I did use the word control, but I didn't mean it in the actual sense where you're trying to literally tell, make people do what you want. But what's weird is that in a way, men do want to be controlled by women because we want to be influenced by femininity. Um,
I don't know. I think that the language is really important. I spend a lot of time parsing the language. To me, I don't think it's about control. I think that might be the wrong word. I think we are attracted to the energy, but I don't. I mean, if you want to be controlled by a woman, that's probably like you might be. You might want a dominant woman.
uh,
That's what that makes
man,
me think of. I don't
yeah,
personally want to be. I don't like being controlled by anyone. I think the language matters. So I'm careful about who. I don't want to be controlled by anyone. And as far as being influenced, I'm very careful about who I let influence me because I'm
mhm,
sensitive to energy. So I only want to be influenced by those who I specifically choose are going to positively influence me. Um,
absolutely. So
yeah,
like, by the way, man, like, it's kind of awesome talking to you because I'm kind of realizing, like, man, this is actually a guy. Like, this is actually a masculine dude because I'm
thank you.
presenting these ideas, but then some people would take the ideas that I'm saying and just outright be like, uh huh, just to like assuage it, because
Ah,
they don't want to socially disrupt what's going on.
mm-hmm.
But it's kind of cool to see a guy actually grapple with the ideas and be like, no, like I don't want that. Like this
Yeah,
is like I gotta hold on to this. Like that's actually super cool, and like it's cool to see. And I want more guys to do things like that because when I'm presenting these conversation pieces, like it really is just a puzzle for both to unpack. Uh,
mm-hmm.
Now the other aspect to what I was saying there, women don't want to feel controlled. A lot of women don't want to feel like they're being controlled by a man, but they want a man to tell them, hey, we're going here, we're gonna eat here, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. So it's kind of weird how razor thin the difference between control and like a natural energy that both people benefit from is just how razor thin like the difference between control and like a natural dynamic is. I think is really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Uh, I think everyone wants to be led.
Hmm.
Everyone is maybe not everyone, but probably I don't know. I feel have a
I
feeling
think I
that
know what you mean. Yeah, like
I have.
everyone.
Go ahead.
So I think I know what you mean by that. Everyone wants to be. Everyone wants to find someone who is best at whatever they're interested in. So they want to find a person who's good at it so that they can look and see what's the best thing to learn from that person. So I can kind of see what you mean.
Yeah,
And
I
that'll be
think that.
true for the men as well.
Yeah, even for the men, I think probably like the vast majority, if not everyone, wants to be led in some sense sometimes because it takes the burden of responsibility off your shoulders, and you just know, oh, this guy knows more than me. Let's just do that. It's like the same feeling as when you were a kid and you were looking to your parents for some help or validation or something. As an adult, it's now like all up to you. You are responsible for figuring your life out, for making sure your relationships are good, for making sure you have enough money, for making sure you're in good physical health. No one's going to do it for you. No one's coming to save you. It's all up to you, and that's can be like a heavy thing to step into for a lot of us, especially who haven't dealt with stuff even from childhood. There's still stuff from childhood that's sort of like patterns that never got resolved in the mind that stop us from really like stepping into that adult mindset. And now we're just expected to figure out all this adult stuff, and we're sort of in some ways still stuck on these old things we feel like we should have known back then. And so when there's someone around us, like with women, for example, we expect guys like us that we should have already always known this stuff, and then we had to go and learn it and spend time to do it.
We beat ourselves up for not knowing it too.
Sure, of course, and that can be preventing us from stepping into something today that would be the adult version of an upgrade,
Mhm.
because we're still stuck on this old stuff that we feel like should have been dealt with in childhood. So if you come to someone like myself or someone like Chris or someone else regarding women who's got experience going through the fire and improving in this way and evolving, you can take some of the responsibility off of yourself in the moment to trust someone who's got more experience, and it feels like a burden has been lifted. You could just follow in the
Yeah,
footsteps. So we all want to be led in some way, whether it's with women or
absolutely.
something else. Even the guy who understands everything about women might not ever understand everything about money or something else, or driving a race car, or how to swim 100 meter in fucking 8 seconds or whatever the numbers are. I don't know the numbers there.
Jesus, dude.
I don't
Okay,
know the numbers. I
I
don't
know that
know.
shit's crazy to be
I don't know
honest.
the numbers, but we all have some area where if we're not sure about that thing, we want to progress, and someone else has more experience than we do. It feels good to be led in that way, and I think that's pretty promising, because I think that means that everyone could become a leader in some sense, some aspect.
Yeah, there's definitely a niche for everyone. Next question. That was a pretty good comprehensive covering of a lot of that particular topic. Um, do you have anything to add? Like any particular topic or anything? I know this is my podcast,
Yeah,
but
I'm not
we're
sure
just
what
chopping
direction
it
you
up.
want to take it.
So, so I'm actually doing a podcast in the future with a guy. I thought this would be interesting. So there's my mentor, not Chris. There's another one. He talks about how you have two groups of guys. You have guys who are select and guys who are non-select. So a select guy is going to be able to elicit the attention of most of the women around him.
Sorry, bro. This fucking
No
alarm. I
problem.
don't know what's going on.
So if you notice that, and when I was watching, so I actually tried to shift the burden on him. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to recognize that. So I'm actually leading this discussion because this is my podcast, and I'm asking the questions, and he's answering the questions. But I actually shifted the burden onto him in order to alleviate um, myself, which was kind of interesting. Um, a lot of times the dynamic switches back and forth. People just don't notice it, but yeah, that was definitely super cool to notice. Uh, so like I was saying, um, so me and a guy, there's a guy at my university, so he would be considered select because he's very good with women. He elicits the attention of women very easily. And I, at that time, and even to some degrees now, would be considered either semi select or non select, which would mean the average woman wouldn't look my way. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it just is what it is. The average woman's not going to look my way without me going out of my way to go and talk to a woman. Um, so in the past, when I was at that university, I kind of went out of my way to talk to him and see what he was doing that was working. But then we kind of just built a, a relationship just off of talking about women. So I thought it would be cool to do, and I don't know, I'll have to see what his schedule is doing, but like next week or the week after, to do a podcast, 34 or 35, 45 minutes, um, just to see, uh, just to have a conversation between the guys who didn't have certain experiences and the guy who had that experience. Kind of a grass is greener on the other side. Um, so what was funny is I talked to him on the phone, and he said, "Yeah, man, actually there was some stuff about it I didn't like, even though I could get women left and right, and I could get just a crazy amount of women." He said that there was a lot of issues that a lot of guys really wouldn't want to deal with that he was having issues with. And I told him, wow, that's kind of insane because I actually idolized like guys like him uh, a long time ago. But then it's kind of interesting to see the issues on the other side of of the the plane.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely issues on the other side. They're higher quality issues. I still would take those issues over the previous issues of being alone.
Yeah, I make the
Yeah,
joke there. It's like, oh yeah, man, I have issues. It's like, oh my god, I have just too much. Would you? Hey, could you get out of the house, please?
yeah. Well, that's
Like a
real.
humble brag kind of thing.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, that's a real thing. And when you're at that level, it doesn't feel. It's hard to like give yourself the credit, to go, oh, but this is still so much a better quality problem than before because it's still like an issue. So there are issues when you're good with women and women like you, and you know s- some of them get addicted to you, and sometimes that can be predictable to create with the right woman, and that's something that men want. And uh, you know there's all sorts of things that we can't expect before having that experience, that once you're there are problematic, and then you're in sort of a rarefied air space where there aren't that many people at that level too with you, so you less people understand you, so people don't care as much about your problem. Like if you don't have women, then you can find tons of losers who will empathize with you, and you can sit in a little circle and talk about how sad it is that you don't have
uh,
women, and everyone will be like,
yeah,
"Oh, I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain," because
yeah.
none of those fucking dorks have women either.
I
But
think,
what
I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I mean, when you're like, dating multiple women, and inviting multiple women over at the same time to hook up all together or whatever it is, and then you're talking, and that's where the level that you're playing at, and then you have an issue. Most guys that you talk to about that, hey, I'm inviting these two girls over, and like one
They're
of
gonna
them
be
wouldn't
pissed
leave
off.
after, or whatever you say, and people are just gonna be like, oh, whatever, dude, fucking
Yeah,
deal with
like,
it. Fuck
fuck
you,
you,
dude.
man.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And people don't care anymore. So there's less people to commiserate with the higher up the mountain you go.
Yep. Uh, so, um,
Not to mention
it's,
jealousy and all that.
yeah, I think that goes back to your post. That's one of the reasons why I think it was really good because when you can see guys who can get chicks like that, and you're like, all right, man, that's dope. Okay, I see what you're using. I can see how that man. Okay, like you admire him. You're like, holy shit. Okay, you put in the work, and then come to think, you're like, man, you know what? I'm gonna put in the work. Like that kind of mindset. I think
Yeah,
it's like we were talking about last time. I think that's something you have uh, to get to over time. It's like I'm not look for the guys who you get jealous of seeing other guys who are good with women and stuff like that. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like here's a reframe for you. Like that's just a stage. Go to the next stage. The next stage is to look at the traits that the guy is capitalizing on and that the woman's paying attention to, and to admire those traits. If you can admire those traits that are actually good, then you can strive to achieve those traits. And then once you strive to achieve it, then you'll have the traits.
yeah,
So, I mean, just see it as a point of growth. Don't look at your flaws as a point of, don't look at your flaws as something to diminish who you are. Look at it as a stepping stone to increase things about yourself. I mean, as I was saying, masculinity is active self reflection. So by that sense, by reflecting on the things that you're not good at, you're actually calling to attention something that can be changed quite immediately if you
Yeah,
have
those
the
are all
will.
opportunities
Yeah, I
all it's
like how you I like how you reframed that by saying it was an opportunity,
Thanks,
and
bro.
that's part of the reason why I like seeing your content, yours and Chris's. Uh, Chris's content is often super mystical, but he's also super dope with the stuff he says
Hmm.
as well. I kind of wanted to go to switch over to working out and just forming habits. Uh, so a lot of guys and just people in general have issues forming habits, especially when it comes to. So I'll give you an example. So I have a pull-up bar. Trying to get more pull-ups. I think I'm like 8 to 10 pull-ups now. I'm trying to get to like 15 or 20 pull-ups, which is considerably different and harder than 8 to 10 pull-ups. Um, from what I understand, it takes like 30 days to develop a habit. But then I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Mm. So did we talk last time about about the Benjamin Franklin method and all the time spent on habit
You
building the
brought that
last?
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the last
Is that
year and a half.
something? You mind if I ask? Like, is that something you made up, the
Yes.
Benjamin? Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so I spent the last year and a half, more actually, maybe like 17, 18 months, almost exclusively on this topic. So it's gotten a lot of attention from me, and I have a community of men right now who are crushing using the principles of the Benjamin Franklin method, and some of them have gotten insane results, like in all areas of their life. They're in better. They're jacked now. They're making 3, 4 times their income from when before they started.
Man,
Uh, Crushing. One of them's in school and like getting all A's and doing it in like a I don't know, more than like less than half the time that it usually takes someone else
oh
to do it.
shit!
Like a 2-year program, they finish it in 1 year
You're
while
making a bunch of
consulting.
Ubermensch, man.
Yeah, that guy is also consulting the UN. God damn it. What the fuck is with this alarm? Shit. Dude, I
I
don't know
thought it
what's
was a
going on. Sorry.
phone.
No, that's the fucking alarm on the house. I don't know why it's doing that. Give me a second, bro. Damn. Fuck, man. Shit keeps interrupting me, dude. Not cool. Anyway,
Why is it doing that?
I don't know, bro. I don't fucking know, dude.
Home security or something?
Yeah. So anyway, the results from this thing have been pretty awesome. But basically, I think it depends. The amount of days it takes to start a habit is different for every habit. So we've been tracking habits now, some of us for 550, 600 plus days, um, and analyzing it in depth. And this is like one of the things that we have noticed, gathering the data across like over 10 dudes over a long period of time. And it's not 30 days for everything. It might be for some things. For the pull-up thing, it might be less, it might be more. For like easier habits, it can happen faster. For like making the bed, that one can be made into a habit probably in 30 days, no problem. Especially when you take into account the different levels of doneness. So one of the principles in my Benjamin Franklin method is that prioritizing consistency over intensity. So rather than trying to do 100 pull-ups every day from scratch, from doing nothing, overnight, you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to do 100 a day now because I want to be the pull-up guy. Instead of that, just prioritize doing it every day. So better to do one pull-up every day for 30
Mm-hmm.
days than trying to do 100 pull-ups today and tomorrow and the next day and every day after that. because at the end of those 30 days, you will at least have a pull-up habit. And then you can slowly increase the intensity as long as you're
Yeah.
prioritizing consistency. So keeping that in mind, for every habit that we install for the guys inside my Habit Hacker Mastermind, which is application only, and it's only even available to apply for after one goes through and finishes, graduates from the Benjamin Franklin method. One of the things we have them do is for each new habit they want to install, we come up with floor goals, average goal, and ceiling goal. So if you wanted to, for example, start a making the bed habit, you would define for yourself what would be the ceiling goal, what would be the floor goal, and what's average. So the ceiling goal might be, the pillows get like fluffed, everything gets pressed so there's no wrinkles. You pull the sheets and tuck it under the mattress. You make sure that it's like fully flat, like military level inspection, right? That might be the ceiling goal, but you might not have the juice for that every single day. You might be running a little bit late some days. You might have something early morning that you want to get done, or maybe you just don't have the energy that day, the willpower, or whatever it is. Then on those days, you could do the floor goal. So maybe the floor
Then
goal
you
is
don't
like,
have to beat yourself up for not getting the
correct.
ceiling goal. It's kind of
Correct, and you're getting that consistency. So at the floor goal level, you throw the cover over the top. Let's say you don't even make the sheet underneath. Like the little sheet underneath is still fucking just wherever it is. You could at least put the comforter or the top, like whatever that's called, over so it looks a little bit made. You're covering up the mess underneath a little bit. You're not making both sheets, but you're sort of like, sweep it. You're like kind of like hiding the mess under the rug, so to speak. But it's better than not making it at all. So maybe that's the floor goal. And the average goal might be, I'm gonna like pull both sheets up and make the pillows like even, but it doesn't have to be like perfectly flat. I don't have to fluff the pillows. It doesn't have to be military level. It's up to you to decide how you want to define those levels. You do that for each habit, and now you always have an out to do something. So the pull-ups, it might be, I'm going to do at least one pull-up. So on the days when you don't feel like doing any, you at least do something, and then you build the consistency, and you're building that habit on the top days. On the ceiling goal, it might be like, I'm going to do 2 or 3 sets of 8 to 10, or 4 or 5 sets of 8 to 10, or whatever you can do throughout the day. The average goal might be, I'm just going to do 1 set of 8 to 10 and try to add 1 every time that I can, 1 rep every time I can. It's up to you to decide. We always, it's different depending on the dude, but the consistency over intensity method has been very, very
I like that.
useful. Yeah.
Thanks, man. That was super comprehensive. Anyone listening, so what I got out of it is, as he was saying, focus on doing things um, more consistently than don't try to go hardcore all the time, which is probably the natural instinct for guys to want to go super hardcore because they think
Yeah.
they have to go hardcore to get to a hardcore goal. No, you don't. Which it honestly sounds kind of nuts to me sometimes, but I think that's the inner masculine saying, "Hey, man, you gotta crush it, man." It's like, yes, you can, but reframe it. We can crush it in a small series of cuts. A lot of times when you're taking down large enemies, especially in the animes, you'll see the characters fighting the big woolly man, the guy who's a giant or something, and you'll see him chop like what's a particular enemy like. So Titan, what is it? Attack on Titan got like Levi, like the dopest guy with swords coming in, and he'll slice little small pieces of the giants that he's attacking, and then like a series of small pieces over another series of like over time, eventually it all crumbles down. I think that's a really cool way to think about it. Honestly, man, even though like, cause I've heard something similar to it in the past, and I still fight it sometimes. Like, no, I still have to be hardcore.
I know, and what happens on the back of that is you don't do any instead.
No, exactly. Like I'm not as consistent. That's exactly,
Correct.
yeah.
So what happens is you will convince yourself that it's better to do none than to do 100 because you're so hell bent on doing 100 that when the day comes that you don't feel like doing 100, you rationalize that it's better to do zero and you do fucking nothing, and then the habit does not get built. That's crazy, but we always do that. That's the pattern. That's the pattern that I had for years and years and years, man. I came up with the Benjamin Franklin method not so I had some shit to sell. That was for me. It only got a name after it was
And so you
working.
can sell that cool ass art on the back. So you
Yeah,
can show that, man. That's kind of cool.
it is cool. My buddy Dax did that at Savage Dax, Dax, on Instagram for those curious. He's great.
Let's see. So are you cool with talking about current events? Do you care?
Sure, bro.
So what's your well, I don't want to talk about your personal opinion, but it's kind of getting crazy out there. With what's going on right now, I have to dodge certain words, but I guess I don't know what's going on where you are. What have you seen?
Well, I'm not too focused on it, man. I'm not too focused on it. I'm just focused on me and on crushing it myself and what I can do. I'm focused on what I can control. I'm focused on my clients who are also crushing it as well. Like I started this habit hacker mastermind on the back of creating the Benjamin Franklin method last year, right around and after we got locked in our houses, avoiding that one
It
word, the
was
Q
like
word.
a year ago. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate. I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem, no problem. So after the Q word, in March or whatever is when I officially created the product. We had already been doing it privately, clients and not myself, but created the product, and then we created the mastermind, and that was built at the I don't know beginning of summer 2020. So it was just we had a little bit of time to adapt rather to the new reality of being
Mhm.
at home and not being able to go outside and having to cover the face, etc. And the goal of mine was to give these men the tools that they needed to thrive during the chaos, not just to weather the storm, but to become stronger because of it. And so that's what we've done, and that's all I'm continuing to focus on is just continuing to get stronger because of all this chaos. And I don't watch the news. People send me stuff. That's like the way that I see news these days, or like I'll see it like happen to see it on a front page of Google or some
You
shit
know,
like that.
it's actually way better than the news. People sending me stuff because you
I
at
don't
least
know.
know you're gonna get diverse. Depending on what kind of, you at least gonna get diverse opinions.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
the news, it's just one thing in your face. It's just like here you go, here you go, here you go. Fear, fear, fear,
yeah,
fear,
yeah.
pain.
Exactly. I've heard it said that if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed, and if you watch the news, you're misinformed. So I suppose I prefer to be uninformed because I don't really trust the intentions behind these companies pumping out these sources, these news articles,
Hmm.
these pieces, whatever they're pumping out. So I just prefer to. I have no control over it, even if it is real. Even if it is
Absolutely.
real, there's not. Oh, if it's like a fucking hurricane is coming to hit Texas, someone's gonna tell me. So in that case, I might need to know so I can leave, and then I'll find out. But if it's just some other, hey, there was this fucking horrible thing that happened, or in this part of the world or country, or there's this government thing happening, I don't care. It doesn't help me to think about it. It only stresses me out. I can't change it. I have no intention or plan of changing it. I don't want to go into politics and do anything about it. So I'm just going to focus on what I can do. And that's my money, my relationships, my health, fitness, my mind, my body, my spirit, my purpose, and nothing else. And that's all I focus on. And that's why, I'm very happy with my life and where
I
the
think,
choices that I
I,
have. Freedom.
yeah, I personally think you're actually doing a lot to help people during this time because, I mean, just by getting guys to go out and giving them toolkits to actually crush it, like you're making a difference in the energetic field of the world just by allowing like these men to actually see that there's a higher plane that they can reach. I
Mm,
think that that's going to do, I think what you're doing is extremely good for that particular end because there's a lot of negativity right now with what's going on around that particular subject. And by giving people tools to make their lives better, I think you're doing it. Like like
thank
I
you.
don't think you have to be in politics, and I don't think I have to be in politics. I think the little things that we're doing every day, like it's again, it's going to make those series of cuts. That's going to bring down whatever we don't like around us, and then we have more room to be. We have more room to have all the joy and have all the good things we want around us.
Mm, absolutely, brother.
I think that's it. This was pretty cool. Um, Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Uh, I'll be listening to your posts and stuff like that. Like if you want to come on, like if you have a particular topic, also that would be cool to have like a part 2 or 3 or something like that.
Sure.
Again, this was cool. Hopefully, I can have more organization with the topics I bring for next time. Um, I don't really have one off the top of my head, but also like the next podcast or the live stream that I plan to do again, that's going to be the select talk with the non-select, and that's basically just going to be like one like a guy's point of view of being the Chad and the other guy's point of view of not being the Chad, and them having the conversation in an honest way and like just discussing. Like this is
Cool.
something I've seen on the internet. A lot of guys, create content creators who talk about this particular information. They're not. We don't see the conversation from both sides. So this is like one of those live streams where it's rare to see the sides come together and actually discuss and collaborate and lift each other up.
Very cool, man.
That's Yeah, that's where I'm going with that.
I love it.
Anyway, yeah, so this is the Iron Sun, and I was chopping it up with Alex here. For anyone who was on, hope you have a good day, and everybody keep crushing it out there.
Hell yes.
All right, man, take it easy.
Ciao, brother.
Damn, this was good. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I gotta learn how to end my live streams, man. So yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, yo, I really thought this was a good live stream. I think I want to reduce the length of my live streams to like 45 minutes or maybe 30 minutes because with an hour, people kind of get um, they kind of get frustrated with the length and they won't watch it at all. So like if I could break it up or just lower it to like 45 minutes, I think that would be the dopest thing. So also, here's another message. So I'm gonna do some updates on my workouts and stuff like that because I kind of want to get some gains, but I'm being a lazy piece. So I need to do that, and I need to kind of be honest with myself about where I want to go with my workouts and stuff like that. So I'm gonna check in on that, even on my YouTube videos. Anyway, take it easy, yo.